just feels like, the whole planet is on our little tiny farm. It's it's great.
That was Milena Khazanavicius, a gardener at the Common Roots Urban Farms Baihai Garden. Today, Milena will share with us her passion for gardening and the ways the Baihai Garden has been made accessible for her as she has lost her sight. Welcome to Growing Together, a podcast that covers a range of topics on food, food security, and disability. I am Maya Nelson-Roundtree, your host, and this podcast is brought to you by the Disabled Independent Gardeners Association. Before starting, we would like to acknowledge that we are calling in today from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. I hope you enjoy today's episode of Growing Together. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got involved with the Common Roots Urban Farm?
Sure. So my name is Milena Khazanavicius. I'm completely blind. I'm 49, almost 50. I lost my sight at 22 due to diabetic retinopathy. And prior to losing my sight, I was a floral designer. So I was assisting managing 3 shops in Calgary, Alberta. And the whole journey of moving to Nova Scotia is a long one, so I'll just skip that. But here I am since 1994, and then I lost my sight in 95 after a year of being a Nova Scotian. So I've been here. And how did I get involved with the Common Roots Urban Farm? Actually, it ended up being that a film company was looking for someone to do a documentary on accessible gardening, and I put my name in. Apparently no one else wanted to do it, so they chose me. So through AMI, Accessible Media Incorporated, it was a 10-part series about 3 years ago, maybe 4, called Growing Sense. And that was a journey. And that's how I got involved with the Common Roots Urban Farm, because it was the production company wanted something to start with that was local and accessible on the peninsula here in Halifax, and that's how I ended up being with the farm, and I've been here ever since, and they are not going to get rid of me.
That's so great. Yeah, I actually watched one of the episodes and it was so great. Yeah, it seems like you're a local celebrity.
Yeah, locals, it's a pain in my butt.
Yeah, so with your background in floral designing, it seems like you've had experience with plants and growing plants. But could you tell us more about how you developed a passion for gardening?
Oh, that's a good question, Maya. I think it started because originally I was born in Lithuania, and both my sets of grandparents, so we were under a communist regime back then, and everybody had a dwelling in the, inside the city. So you had your apartment, and then you had these kind of like community farms where everybody had some land. And so as a small child, 3, 4, 5, before we left for Canada when I was 7, I'd always go with either set of grandparents, and who grew vegetables and had cherry trees and flowers. And it was one of my favorite places to be all the time. I couldn't wait for summer and spring to arrive, because though I had no idea what I was doing, it was great to be hanging out there. On my maternal side, grandparents, my grandmother grew ginormous sunflowers. So I felt like Alice in Wonderland amongst the flowers in that picture, because when you're little, the sunflowers are that much bigger and taller. And then on my paternal side, there were cherry trees and apple trees and cucumbers and tomatoes. And I've always loved fresh vegetables and fruits. And so I think that's where it was started. When we moved to Calgary, my mom planted small gardens in our backyard, and things just grew from there little by little. And one of my one of my favorite things, and the older I get, I'm still amazed how you can, take one bean, literally one bean, and you plant that bean and it grows a plant, and then you have 20 beans, and from those 20 beans you can take those beans, and then you've got 100,000 beans, that it's all from one seed. And just to watch something grow is just, I got my face all twisted right now, like my eyes are popping open. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it is such a beautiful thing, gardening.
It
Um,
definitely is. It has, I mean, it has its ups and downs, like life in general, right? So you've grown something, and then bad weather comes along and it gets destroyed, or there's not enough water, or there's too much rain, or but when it happens, and you just kind of like, oh, look, I grew this. This is great. Or somebody grew something for me, and I'm eating something that somebody put their heart and passion into, for the most part. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely can be unpredictable sometimes, but sometimes for
Yeah.
the better.
I have a story. You want to hear something really funny quickly?
Yeah, go for it.
So not only at the Common Roots Urban Farm, but on my balcony before I joined the Common Roots, I would stuff my balcony full of pots and hanging planters and things like that. So this year is no different. I try to reduce the amount of what's there, but I have 5 hanging baskets and a bunch of other pots. And then the hanging baskets, I have a variety of flowers, and one of my favorite are nasturtiums, because they kind of hang, and they become like a vine, and so it kind of covers you. So when you step on my balcony, you come into contact with all these vines, and it's a great feeling. And so I've had friends come throughout the season, and they're telling me, "Oh, you planted peas." I said, "No, I didn't plant no peas." Well, and I know these are peas. I said, "I didn't plant any peas. I planted a whole bunch of nasturtiums this year because I can't get enough of them." Well, guess what, Maya? Just last week I went out, and I'm thinking, something's not right here. These are dangly. Now there are nasturtiums, but I got peas. I have
Oh
peas.
my.
Hey, there's peas. I'm eating peas from my hanging baskets. It's like,
Oh,
oh,
that's
I better
so.
call my friends and tell them they were right. Which I don't know. I must have been drunk when I was planting.
Wow. That's a pleasant surprise.
Oh, yeah, it's a phenomenal surprise because there's quite a few of them right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I also understand that you have is it a garden plot in the Baihai
Yes.
garden?
Yeah. I have
Okay.
it's 4 feet by 12 feet, which is pretty much, if you're renting a plot at the Common Roots, at the Baihai location. Um, yeah, so they're 4 feet by 12 feet, and you can put in a quite significant amount of vegetables, especially if you do something that is called square gardening. So you divide your garden. Now, because I'm blind, so I use ropes, and I divide it in rows of 4 and then 12. So that's 48 one by one squares. You can get quite a lot if you garden in that fashion. Um, Quite a lot of vegetables out of a 4 by 12 plot for the year.
What are you growing in your
What am I
garden
growing?
plot?
So uh, I always grow garlic, and this year I harvested 52 uh, large bulbs. I had 3 different varieties. One that was called red China garlic, which has a bit of more of a bite. So tomatoes, my standard tomatoes, beets, beans, always garlic, and a few basils to complement the tomatoes, because the basil and tomato really like living together. I learned, um, and flowers. I always throw in flowers. So this year I have zinnias, and they're right now, I just picked 3 of them for my vase here. And even though I can't see them, but they're about 3 feet tall. So they're
Mm.
stunning.
Wow, yeah, no, it seems like such a lush, beautiful garden. So, with the garden you have and all the vegetables and the surprise peas that you're growing, um, What has having access to all this fresh produce done for you?
Oh, what does it do for me? Honestly, Maya, I deal with depression on and off, and so just to see what I can grow and have it come to fruition, it's more. It's not a subsistence um, farming gardening for me in any shape or form, but it's a mental health thing. It really, I don't know, I can't explain it. Like, like the peas on my balcony right now are, they just made me smile and laugh for an entire day. 'Cause like, where do they come from? I don't remember planting them, right? And then at the farm, was overwhelmed with joy with the garlic, and that garlic, um, well, more than likely 52 bulbs, but it lasts me throughout the year because I'm a big garlic fiend. Everything has to have garlic as far as I'm concerned. um, and it gives me opportunities to share. So, I've given away a lot of the beet greens, some of my garlic as well. And once the tomatoes are ripe, some of my elderly neighbors that are here and their mobility here, I'm meaning in my building where I live, they don't have those opportunities. And it's a lot of work, so they don't have the energy for it either, but they appreciate when I bring them a cucumber or tomatoes or
Yeah,
peppers. Yeah, peppers are the other things I always grow.
that's
So
so great.
it's a mental health thing for
I
me.
see. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, yeah, gardening and growing can really be quite healing and also open up opportunities to connect with other people.
Oh, 100%. Like on our site at the Common Roots, we have a myriad of people. So we have Syrians and people from China and people from Afghanistan and people from the Congo and Nigeria, and um, and it's one of the most delicious things to experience, because even though there are language barriers, and once the people understand that I can't see, um, so because I don't always look like I'm blind, I don't know, people stick in their heads when you tell them you're blind. They say, "Oh, your eyes aren't foggy," or something crazy like that. And so when they understand that I can't see, it's a lot of hand to hand contact. Well, not so much so in the past 2 years because of
Yeah.
COVID, but trying to pass a carrot, carrot, and I say carrot, yeah. And so we're learning languages and we're communicating in ways that just brings the whole, I don't know, it just feels like the whole planet is on our little tiny farm. It's it's
Oh,
great. Yeah.
wow. I love that. The whole planet is on our tiny
Yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, specifically with the Common Roots Urban Farm, with the Baihai Garden you're a part of, in what ways has, in what ways has the garden been accessible to you with regards to paths, signage, beds, and any other features?
Okay. Well, there's a bit of a story on here, and I'm going to try and get it right. So the Common Roots, in a documentary that you see, it was actually started in 2012 by the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and it was a hospital who wanted to have a garden as a mental health and physical therapy for rehabilitation for the patients. So at the time that we ended up moving in 2019, I think there were 200 um, community plots. Those would be the ones that people would rent. There were numerous market beds and things that were grown in there. Um, were sold at the market and given back to people who needed food, and then the common gardens, common plots where vegetables and things were grown, and people could come and go and eat and pick as they traveled through. So they worked on accessibility probably in about maybe 2018, and they put in actually, because there was dirt paths and then they put crushed gravel. This is in the back in the former site. And in 2015, they opened up one at the Woodside, which is the NS hospital. For those who don't know, so that's where people who need rehabilitation, mentally and cognitively, and that's been therapeutic on that end over in Dartmouth. And so 2012, 2015, the second site opened, and then 2019 we had to move because it was the land was just given until it was going to be needed by the hospital. And so 2019 we moved down to Baihai, which is a very small park in the shape of a triangle. And up until this year, accessibility was pretty much dog do, to put it politely. But through grants and donations, we this year have installed a crushed gravel path. There will be the wheelchair beds will be going back in. I think we're only going to have 4. And the wheelchair beds are kind of like, if you've never seen one, an inverted pyramid. So an upside down pyramid. So therefore, and they're 4 by 4 in width. And so the person in the wheelchair can kind of roll under, and it's at the level where they can, plant and roll and wheel around to all 4 corners to plant what they would like to plant. So those will be going in a little later. Other than that, because previously, if I stepped onto the farm, we've been there since 2019. I would have to have my partner come with me or someone meet me, because it was virtually impossible with a white cane or even the guide dog to find your way through all this grass. It was kind of like walking in the desert. So at least I can get on there now and find my way around with the crushed gravel paths, where before it was, where the heck am I? So we have some raised beds. We're working more. There's going to be new signs that will be going in that will have, some of them will have Braille. Definitely all will have large font and contrast letters. And accessibility, not only for people with physical disabilities, but so the plots that you can eat from, there's going to be pictures where, there's a hand showing, to my understanding, showing a vegetable going into a mouth, and then a hand with an X for the plots that you're not allowed to pick from. And those are kind of, like a plot that I rent for. Yeah. So on that accessibility part, we have interpreters, but if they're part of a core team, such as I am, just to see where the garden is going. So we have interpreters for some of our volunteers who again who have a language barrier. So accessibility in that way, and accessibility in terms of fashions by having the common beds for people who perhaps didn't get an opportunity to rent a plot, but they can still come and pick something that is being grown for everyone to have from. So accessibility, we're working on it. We still need quite a bit. Our water tank, we have a larger water tank, so 10,000 gallons. Oh, I could be wrong on that. Anyway, it's a very large water tank, but you still have to walk up a hill to access the water, to water the plot. So we're going to sooner or later, hopefully by the end of the season, get a very long hose that will be coming down specifically to the accessible garden, like the wheelchair beds that will be, and more beds that are raised a little higher for people who are blind and partially sighted. So the watering hose, better signage. It's all a progress, right? We're 3 years in, and I believe, although our coordinator Sarah Burgess thinks everything things moving too slow. And I have to always remind her, Sarah, look how far we've come in 3 years.
Milena just shared with us all about her experience and love for gardening and the ways it has made a positive impact for her life and others. She also spoke to Common Roots Urban Farm and the ways they have and are working to promote accessible gardening for those with disabilities. Thank you for listening. This podcast was kindly supported by Ingenium, Canada's Museums of Science and Innovation. Stay tuned for more episodes of Growing Together.